Tim Smith, welcoming you to RUHM, where we are here to expose the amazing people, property, stories of Orange County to the world. Today, I'm so thrilled to have Josh Childress, former NBA player, now real estate tycoon, from Compton to Stanford, a real estate tycoon. Thanks so much for joining us.
Sam, I appreciate you having me.
Yeah. I mean, it's been like, I just got to be honest, I've been like a hoopy groupie my whole life. Basketball is my thing. I was never the player to go college NBA, but like I still love it. So let's talk about Josh Childress as a kid. Grew up in Compton, had a brother.
3 brothers.
3 brothers. Mm-hmm. Tell me a little bit about growing up in Compton.
Yes, I mean, Compton is an interesting and unique place. I think that most of the world knows it from what they see on TV, which was, the NWA and the Dr. Dre and the rap culture. But there's this a uniqueness to the city. I grew up in an area that was a little more quiet, and there was a park kind of in the middle of my neighborhood, and then where it gets pretty rough. And the park was where we all met. It was where we played. It was where we made friends, created friendships and had a lot of fun. But everybody then went back to their respective kind of worlds. And so getting a chance to get exposed to a wide range of people at an early age was special for me, because I got a chance to know how to interact and socialize. And, I was in this interesting situations where I just learned a lot as a kid. But basketball was always kind of that common place, that common ground for us, and that's obviously, it speaks to the power of the sport.
And where do you fit in with the 3 brothers?
So I'm the third of 4.
Two
Significantly older brothers, 53 and 51. And then I'll be 40 this year, and then a younger brother who's 2 years younger than me.
And all basketball players, basketball family?
No. Wannabe basketball players. My 2 older brothers love sports.
Okay.
So I used to go watch them.
But they weren't NBA, college.
No,
okay.
No. I watched them in men's leagues.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. My younger brother played Division II college.
Okay.
And went on to play, a little bit professionally overseas. But it was the younger generation that was able to kind of make that career.
Dad was a basketball player?
My dad was a track athlete.
Okay.
Actually, I don't know if he still holds some records in LA, but was definitely a beast in his day. And my mom was just a girl from Little Rock, Arkansas. So they met. She moved out here to go to school at SC, and they met and had us.
That's awesome. And so I remember hearing a podcast recently about the difference between Compton and Watts. I don't know if you ever heard this. There was a big study done between Compton and Watts, and at the time they did a huge study on the kids, and one of the big things was there were more fathers in Compton than in Watts, and it made a huge difference. And I think that being a father, and you being a father of 3 girls, I'm now realizing the impact of what we make. And growing up in that, I'm sure you had a bunch of friends. Tell me about some of the challenges maybe you saw with friends. I mean, do you think that there's a direct relationship to having more challenges when there is a broken family versus not? I mean, tell me a little bit about your experience with that growing up.
No, absolutely. I mean, I had plenty of people in my circle and at the park that were just as talented, if not more talented than I was, but just didn't have a support system. Didn't have a father figure. Their father figure may have been the individual that was in a gang that was, not doing the right things. And so that was the path that they were on, just given they had nothing else and no one else to follow, and no other advice to get. And so, I mean, it's a massive impact on the trajectory of, a young man, a young woman's life early on, is having, not only a father figure in the house, but just family support system.
Yeah.
So I was super blessed to have that, in my household.
Strict parents?
Strict on education, making sure that I always, kind of had that paramount in everything that I was doing. But outside of that, let me be a kid.
Yeah.
But growing up there, you also weren't just out and about. Right?
Yeah.
You were very kind of targeted in where you went, and the park was always that place for me.
And the park was a safe space. Okay.
Yeah. Enterprise Park.
So tell me, like, as in your basketball career, when did you start playing at what age?
I started playing when I was about 7.
Okay.
Yeah, 7 years
And
old.
that's when you start playing in leagues.
Yeah, I was playing at the park. I was
Yeah.
playing, in the park leagues, and as time went on, I graduated into AAU and things of that sort. But the local parks was where you kind of learned your
Totally.
craft, and a lot of that was playing against older guys.
Totally. And just
which-
watching, right?
Yeah.
Watching, like, it's almost like you're modeling, because that's one thing. My son loves basketball, but he's totally like, I mean, his environment is his environment. So I'll take him to different gyms like JW, Jason Wright in Huntington, where you can see, like, okay, you're pretty good at 10 in your little pond, but like, look at the kids
Yeah, for
here
sure,
at 10,
for sure,
right?
for sure.
At what age did you kind of know that, like, basketball was not just something that you loved, but maybe there was a future in it? Was there a point that you had in your life you remember?
I was a little bit of a late bloomer.
Okay.
But for me, it was probably around 8th grade. I was growing a little bit more. We went to the Nationals in Orlando, and our star point guard went out with an eye injury. And so I was kind of thrust into being the point guard for the team. And I had like kind of a breakout tournament, and that led to then more confidence over that summer, and I chose a smaller high school to go to. I went to Mayfair High, so it wasn't the
Versus
Dominguez was kind of the
Yeah,
powerhouse at the
yeah.
time. Tyson Chandler and I were teammates on our AU team.
yeah.
Or Mater Dei or
Yeah.
Long Beach Poly were kind of the three, bigger
Yeah.
programs. I chose to kind of take my own path.
What made you choose that? Because one of the things, I have a million parents here, and they're all like, they want their kids to have the best kind of careers in sports and whatever. Like, what made you choose that? Was that a decision that you made, or you and your dad made? You sat down and talked about it. Help me understand that a little more.
Yeah, it was a decision that I made because I knew that I would step in and it would be my program.
Yeah.
And so as a guy who's kind of growing into his own, making some progress, why not build something, from the ground up, which, ironically is kind of like just how I am in life. But,
Yeah.
that was super important for me, and I was able to kind of step in and, as a freshman, I was starting, and it was pretty much my program alongside my teammate Edwin Drawn, and we built that thing together. So
As freshmen, and then you guys were together the
yeah,
4
we were
years.
there.
So how tall were you? Because in ninth grade, I was 5'4", $115.
we might have been the same weight, but I was about 6'4".
6'4" as a
Yeah,
freshman?
I was 6'4".
And how much you weigh?
I don't know how much I weighed as a freshman, but I graduated at 160.
Okay, as
So
a
I was
freshman.
thin.
So you started your growth spurt. My growth spurt was like junior, senior year. I literally grew like 6 inches.
Yeah.
So always playing point guard?
No, that was just at the time. Just
Yeah.
'cause that's what we needed.
Yeah.
But I was always just shooting guard, small forward. Yeah.
Yeah. And so went to Mayfield. Tell me about your high school career there. So you and Edwin, is that what you said?
Edwin.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, Mayfair is a small school, right?
Yeah.
It's not. It was historically was never a basketball power, but we turned that program into something. I mean, we've had multiple collegiate athletes come out of there, multiple professional athletes come out of there. And our little bubble was just unique. But we won a couple CIF championships, some league championships, and just had a string of guys come through the program. So it's it's a sense of pride that we were able to build
Yeah.
something, and something that's still there to this day. We've had a number of pros come out of there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so in high school, balancing, because education was super important to your parents, was that always something that's like, hey, Josh, you got to, I mean, was that a total focus in the house for education?
It was, but I mean, this is speaking to parents again, right? This
Yeah.
is the power of who your kids are around.
Yeah.
So Edwin and I also competed in the classroom.
Yeah.
So it created this just constant, feeling of wanting to level up, wanting to outdo each other. Healthy competition is great. And so, you look up, we're graduating. I ended up signing at Stanford, and he signs at Yale. And, it's just kind of a testament to us pushing each other, over that 4 years. So, really powerful time for us, as friends and as competitors and teammates.
That's kind of a unique friendship. When did you and Edwin meet? Were you
We were AAU teammates as well. So
Okay.
we met in, 6th grade.
6th grade.
Yeah.
And that's kind of unique because I don't know, like my parents kind of pushed me at academics, but that was not on my mind.
Yeah.
Like it would just never was. It was always something like I heard somebody say either stay up or catch up, right? You always got to be like, and that's like the big thing. I always felt like I was playing catch up. So that's a unique friendship. Are you and Edwin still tight to this day? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And where's Edwin now?
He's at an investment bank in Manhattan Beach.
Oh, nice.
So he's at an investment bank that invests in broker sports deals.
Yeah.
Sports
And where are parents now?
So my dad passed away.
Okay. Sorry to hear
Yeah, thank you. And then my mom lives in Cerritos.
that. Okay.
Yeah.
And what year did your dad pass away?
In 2009. So I was in Greece at the time, and he got into a bad car accident and passed away. And it was tough, obviously being out of the country, not being able to be here. But at the same time,
So totally sudden, no, like that
Yeah.
car accident.
yeah. And we can kind of dig into some of the reasons why, but I think he had some just personal things that he was dealing with, and that ultimately led to that. But it was a turning point in my life, and understanding that life isn't promised, tomorrow isn't promised, and you have to obviously take advantage of what's in front of you, but also appreciate what's in front of you too.
Yeah. How's that been? I mean, were you and your dad super close throughout your life?
We were close,
Yeah.
but I'd say I'm closer to my older brothers, given that there's that age gap.
Yeah.
And so, they were equally, if not more, of the kind of father figures
Yeah.
in my life. They were the ones that taught me how to play basketball, and
Yeah.
were driving me around, and just spent a ton of time, invested a ton into me.
Yeah.
Both mentally, physically, financially. They were there and always there. And so, kind of that combination, plus my dad, plus my mom, is just fantastic support system that I had for sure.
Well, I relate to that because I have 3 brothers and a sister.
Yeah.
And I think that I don't know, parenting was different at our time. Like my dad was working,
Yeah.
right? He wasn't it's made me have a totally different design with my parenting, just because maybe it was maybe I wanted more, I expected more. And I understand my dad grew up on a farm and a ranch, and he worked, right? And so it's like I have these relationships with my brothers and my sister that I feel like the same thing kind of, and I'm the youngest, so I got all the good and the bad of everything that was trickled down, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so fast forward, go to Stanford.
Mhm.
I mean, was that when you were in high school and you were going through the process of looking? Tell us a little bit about that process of where you wanted to go to college. Was that something you always dreamt of, going to Stanford?
Yeah, no, it's a funny story. So, I'm 17 years old. I'm, from the inner city. I don't really know what Stanford is.
Right.
I know that it's, prestigious university
Yeah.
and all those things, but I don't fully have a grasp on, what it truly is.
Yeah.
And so I made my decision purely on basketball.
Yeah.
And I took a couple recruiting trips. I went to, for those that are out there that don't understand the recruiting process, basically, if you're good enough, they start recruiting you as a freshman, and they stay in touch via letters. And
So give us a little more of that. So
Yeah.
you're playing, you guys got good chemistry of a team. Is the coach telling you, hey, today we got UCLA coming. We got Thursday, we got Stanford coming. Is it like that? So you're actually going out there like, I need to perform today.
no,
Or it's
I
just
mean,
like people are watching. You're just
Yeah.
playing. You're not hyper focused on it.
I was more focused on just going out there and being the best I could be.
Yeah.
Knowing that there was going to be coaches there. And I think there's kind of 2 different parts to it, because high school and the high school practices are one thing, but where you really make your name is on the AAU circuit.
Yeah.
That's where you're at the tournaments and all the coaches are
Right.
there kind of in one spot. So, you make your name there, and then from there, they then come to your school, check you out,
Yeah.
and what have you. So, you see all the coaches as you're on the circuit. So it's not really as big of a
Yeah.
a surprise or a big thing when they come check you out. But the recruiting process is wild, because you're kind of courted as a freshman, or keeping in touch,
Yeah.
making sure you know who they are, who's what, who's where. Sophomore year, kind of same thing. And then when you turn a junior, there's the open period starts where they can actually like contact you.
Yeah.
And so this was back before cell phones really existed. So like 12 a.m. on that deadline, I mean, my phone is just
Ringing.
blowing up. Yeah, just ringing. And it's pretty much every coach out there.
And what are they saying? They're calling up and they say, "Hey, Josh, we want you to know Duke's thinking about you." That kind of stuff.
That kind of stuff.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff. We want we want to be the first one to let you know that we would love to have you in our program. We think you're great and this that and they're salesmen.
Yeah, for sure.
As they have to be. But that process was just crazy hectic and
And you kind of knew at that point, like you knew, like I'm going D1, I'm going to one of the top colleges as a junior.
I mean, at that point, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
I had a breakout summer. I went to Nike All-American Camp the summer after my sophomore year.
Yeah.
And I played really well.
Yeah.
And from there, it was wide open.
Is this pre-fro or?
This was the start of the fro.
The start of the fro. So the sophomore summer, that was the start of the fro?
Yeah. So,
like it broke out. That was almost the symbol, right?
So there was 4 of us.
Yeah.
And we were the machine gun crew. I don't know why we chose that name.
Yeah.
It was a weird name, but it was myself, Tyson Chandler, Jamal Sampson, and Cedric Bozeman.
Everybody could shoot though.
I mean, it was like we're gonna we're gonna get them up. We're gonna go out and run a gun.
Yeah.
And, Jamal and Cedric went to Mater Dei.
Yeah.
And then Tyson obviously went straight to the NBA.
Yeah.
But that summer we were like, we're gonna grow our hair out together. Just an act of solidarity, and it was just something we were gonna do, and so we did.
Yeah.
And then I ended up keeping the hair.
Yeah.
Jamal got braids, Ced cut his off, Tyson cut his off.
Yeah.
But that was the start of the fro.
And that was all the way through college?
And then I kept mine.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think probably the next year, most of those guys did something else with theirs. Yeah.
No, but everybody knows you for it. Like, I loved it. I thought it was awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so junior year, you start realizing. So how did you kind of narrow down like Stanford with all the attention?
Yeah.
Was there something about the approach of the coaches? Was there something about the team at the time where you want to play there? Or what was the kind of the deciding factor through that process?
So I went on a number of unofficial visits and official visits, and the difference is typically you can do a total of 5 officials.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of timing. Like some of the local ones, UCLA, USC, Arizona, those were unofficial just because I could get there on my own.
Yeah.
I did 2 officials, which was Stanford and Kansas, and that was kind of my final 2. Roy Williams is, he really sold my mom on just, the program and what he had built there, and obviously, Hall of Fame coach and super successful.
Yeah.
I thoroughly enjoyed my time there. I mean, I think that program was fantastic, but I went on campus at Stanford and just felt like I belonged.
Yeah.
It was just hanging out with the team and with the players and the coaching staff. You just have that feeling like this is where I'm supposed to be.
Yeah.
So it wasn't an academic decision at all.
Was it similar? Because you said when you went to high school, you had all these options. Was it that similar feeling? You just felt like this was the right fit?
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Has that been a common theme in your life?
Yep.
Because we've got a theme. We got 2 decisions that you made, which were pretty big decisions in your life, right? That you kind of just said, I had a gut feeling. Now, I understand that because everybody has that. But in other big decisions in your life, who you married, your now career, which I can't wait to talk about, is that the driving force for those decisions?
I think there's 2 pieces to it.
Okay.
I mean, that gut feeling is, it's real. It's natural. It's, if you're kind of in tune with yourself and, you can step away from the chaos and give yourself the space to feel that. I've been able to do that, pretty consistently in my life. And, that feeling of peace and the feeling of, this is the right choice, the right path for me, is something that I lean on heavily.
So let me stop you because you said 2 things. If you're in tune and you step back, you were almost giving me a step. What does it mean for you to be in tune? Like how do you stay in tune with you to know?
Spend time with myself. I mean, I think some of the best kind of moments of clarity, times of clarity that I get are either when I'm out on a walk or when I'm getting massage. So just times where there's, nothing else around. I mean, obviously I'm out in nature walking and just kind of enjoying, the scenery and just running through things and, thinking through all the things around me. And then secondly, during the massage, I just kind of just dial in. Obviously, there's an element of, therapy to what's happening, but also, there's limited sound and I can just kind of lock in on, unpacking things that need to be unpacked and, using that time to really, really kind of just step back, but also kind of like tune in and get in line with, with myself.
In your process for making decisions, do you have a go-to person you talk to? Do you have a process on who you talk to? Because I'm just thinking about this. We had Michael Davidson, and one of the things that was a huge theme was like reflection. We don't reflect anymore. Like life is so busy. We're on our phone. We go from kid thing to work thing to this thing. Like there's no reflection. And part of having no reflection, you can't be in tune with you. And I think when we really are living and developing our best us, it's really about figuring out like what is our path, what keeps us passionate, what keeps us up at night. But without reflection, we don't get that. But the other piece is like, who do you rely on when you're making big decisions? Who's in your corner from Mayfair to Stanford? Who are the ones you're talking to?
A lot of that was me.
Yeah. So it's a lot you.
Yeah.
That's unique and that's awesome.
Yeah.
So you're really like, hey, I want to take my time. I want to get in tune and then I want to just follow my gut.
Follow my gut. Yeah.
Yeah. Which is like, I mean, come on. That's amazing. And one common theme I've had in all like this storytelling that we're doing is that gut feeling. And I think I would say to anybody listening, like, if you're not hearing the gut, get in tune, find your massage, find your walks. But secondly, like figure out what you need to do to hear that voice or that feeling and do more of it. Because based on your decisions, it didn't lead you the wrong way.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
Yeah. And I'd say also in taking the step back, understand if it's your voice or if it's somebody else's.
Right.
It's because a lot of the way we think is shaped by what we consume, who we're talking to, what we're around. And so I am very intentional in making sure that the decisions I may make are based on my voice and not, somebody else's voice coming through, my head.
And so how do you differentiate that? What, like, because you have that. We all have a million voices in our head all the time, whether it be your coach, your mom, your dad, all these people that you trust. How do you differentiate? Is that part of your process? Take time, step back, reflect more. And at the end of the day, this is Josh's voice. I'm feeling it. That's the way I'm going.
I mean, yeah, I'd say how I differentiate it is I try to be objective and look from all different angles. And then I can typically pinpoint if there's an angle that, I'm questioning, I can point to who that's coming from. And I may have conversations with people, but I'm not like asking people for, their specific feedback on what I should do. But, I'll talk about, things I'm thinking about or, things that are happening in the market or this or what have you, nowadays. But I can always kind of pinpoint, well, that sounds like, Justin. That sounds like Tim. That sounds like, and so through that, I'm able to kind of sift through it and come to a point where I feel good about the fact that the voice is mine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that delving in, but let's keep on going. So Stanford, you show up, feels right. Talk about your experience going to Stanford. You're coming from Compton, coming from Mayfair, small. You go to like one of the best schools on the planet, right? For all over the world. Talk a little bit about your experience there and really like how did it feel when you first went there? Like what was the experience?
Culture shock. I mean, I'm walking on campus and there's, cargo shorts and Birkenstocks everywhere. I'm like, where the heck am I? But was
it like give us a little more of that culture shock? You're coming from Mayfair, Compton. This is what year?
2001.
2001.
Yeah.
And then you're literally going to Palo Alto, Stanford, Birkenstock, like that is total.
I'm, full, Sean John velour suit, Air Force Ones, you name it.
Yeah.
Like that was me. And Stanford was just a different world.
Yeah.
So you couple that with.
Did you feel like you fit in though?
Well, I had enough on the teammate side.
Yeah.
That I had a built-in kind of group that I could roll with, which is unique to collegiate athletics, and that you already have your tribe.
You got your crew.
Kind of set.
Yeah.
But fit in well enough.
Yeah.
And you find your way.
Yeah.
The biggest thing was just transitioning from what was high school athletics, high school academics, to now I'm at one of the most prestigious universities in the world, and now my classmates are of a certain ilk, and from certain families, and been exposed to different things that I was exposed to, and so that's part of just the catch-up process, and getting yourself acclimated to that level up, because that's essentially how I felt at Stanford. Just you always had to level up. You always had to understand that there's different layers to everybody's situation and life, but everybody's here to better themselves. You don't go to Stanford just because.
Yeah. And do you feel from competition academically and with athletics, I mean, did it just feel like you leveled up 10 levels? Like you're like, okay, I just went from here, and now the expectations in the classroom, the court. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. So I'll talk on the court first. Physically I needed a lot of work. I mean, as I mentioned, I came in, 6'6", 160 pounds, and I ended up putting on 20 pounds my freshman year, just because I just needed to. Just collegiate game is more physical, more athletic, and that was really what was keeping me, I don't say off the court, because I played a fair amount my freshman year, but that was a hindrance for me, and kind of being more of an impact for the team.
And so when you're going there, are your coaches literally saying, "Hey, Josh, you need to gain 20 pounds. You need to get bigger," or is this? But when you decide I need it, you could set up a program. You could have the best whatever you needed.
Correct.
Which that'd be amazing.
Yeah, and it's just consistency. It's a consistency that I didn't have in high school. It's consistency of the eating schedule. You're eating at a different time. You're training. You have a consistent weight program. And there's more of a science to it than what I was doing, which was in high school I'd go to Carl's Jr. for pregame, right? It's just you didn't know any better. And I'd say on the academic side, it was a massive lift. You got 6 a.m. weights, which I didn't wake up at 6 a.m. for much. High school,
for sure.
6 a.m. weights, and you go grab some breakfast, and then you got class. And you're trying to stay alert and not fall asleep, and you always obviously want to have the balance of the college life. You want to do well in class, you want to do well on the court, and you want to have a social life. And so that first year was really about finding the balance, and it took some time, but it eventually kind of happened, and you're able to fall into place and kind of figure out how to really navigate this thing.
But the academics must have been tough coming from, I mean, it's world-renowned academic schools. So it's like, I mean, did you feel like there were did you get any freebies or because there was nothing. Being a college athlete at Stanford, it's like, doesn't matter.
It worked against us.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm sure it did, because here's another college athlete that thinks they're going to come in here and get some sort of extra attention.
Yeah. No, I mean, multiple professors, just held us to, I don't say a higher standard, but I mean, there were no freebies. And I mean, it's funny, we used to take, because we're in tournament time now, right?
Yeah.
We had to get exams proctored on the road, during finals. So we're literally trying to prepare for the NCAA tournament while also preparing for finals and having, someone at the hotel proctor exams for us. So there were no freebies.
And it probably didn't make a lot of free time to have a social life. When you're playing basketball and academics, you probably didn't have a lot of time for that, right?
Yeah, you make time.
You make time. But it was probably a lot of it was with your team anyway,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
So like that was
yeah.
your crew.
Yeah, but that's part of the journey, part of just understanding how to manage time and build yourself. But yeah, the academics, I'd say academically at Stanford, I was fine.
Yeah.
It's more about who else is in your class. So you could write what you think is an A paper, and then you have this, this genius over here
Yep.
that sets the bar, where your A paper is now a C
Because
paper.
it's all weighted against the competition.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that was a challenge, right?
So you're like, you get in a class, you're like, I'm out of this class. Yeah.
Yeah, so that was a challenge, and just kind of trying to navigate that, and learning how to learn.
Yeah.
I think was also super important, and was
That's good. Talk about that. Learning how to learn. Like, give me.
And you had to break it down because in high school I was always, high school and younger, I was always smart enough to just kind of get by with with doing the bare minimum, and you actually had to apply myself there, and I had to spend time studying and do study hall, and learn how to study from other individuals and how to be efficient, and how to time manage to write a paper or to get prepared for an exam, and that's stuff that I didn't learn
Right.
when I was younger.
Yeah.
So as part of just learning how to learn, and a lot of that also came on the court. Like, I could get by with not learning the playbook in high school, even though I knew it, but
Yeah.
I could get by just on sheer athleticism and talent. And it's different at the college level, and there's a standard that you're held to, and you have to make sure that you're on point and you're in position, and the plays and all those things, because there's a different standard.
So freshman year, gained 20 pounds, you're acclimated, you're fitting in, you've learned how to learn. Talk about sophomore and junior year. And I want to talk specifically about how Stanford did as a team, because you had some good years your sophomore and junior year, right?
Yeah. So I stepped into a team freshman year. We had a couple All-Americans. Casey Jacobson was one of them, local OC guy.
Yeah.
And so although I was a big part of the team, that was his team.
Yeah.
Right. And that was his time. And, he had put the years and the work in, and was that guy. And so he left after my freshman year. And so then, I stepped into more of a leadership role, sophomore and junior year. And, we had some success. I mean, we won Pac-10 titles. Unfortunately didn't make it, too far in the tourney for, various reasons. But my last year, we were, ranked number one in the country for a long period of time, had some fantastic games. And really, I think that's the golden era of Stanford basketball. So it's always fun to go back up there.
Totally.
And, all the alums, they had this, I can't remember if it was millionaire or billionaire row. All your tech tycoons, your VC guys, all those guys were, front row at all our games. So it was just a great environment
awesome. Yeah.
to be in. Yeah. And they have fond memories, which, obviously I do as well.
So junior year, you're looking at, do I stay? Do I go in the NBA draft? Talk about that one.
Yeah. So interesting you brought that up, because I never thought I'm an NBA player.
Yeah. Like literally?
No, I mean, I'd had success, right?
Yeah.
I was working towards it.
Yeah.
But that was part of the power of kind of having older brothers, that they insulated me from kind of all the underbelly, right? The agents calling, and the people reaching out about this, and all that stuff that could get into my mind and play into how I'm trying to perform, how I'm trying to go out there and compete.
So literally, they kind of took it on themselves. Like, they saw something special in you, and they're like, we're going to be like the firewall from him. Like, we're going to keep that and just keep him focused.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, and even down to when I did declare for the draft, at that time, if you declared and you hired an agent, your agent typically took on the expenses of, flying you out to all the team workouts and all that stuff. And my brothers, took money out of their life savings to like make sure that I could do that and have the option to go back to school if it didn't work. So there was always this element of, being the firewall for me, just to make sure that I was focused on the task at hand.
What was the final decision? Like, had some great success as a junior. You guys were #1 for a lot of the season. Was it like, talk about more? Because now we're going back to Mayfair, Stanford. What was talk about that decision? Process. Yeah.
So I went out to the workouts.
Yeah.
And workouts went well.
What does that mean? You went to the workouts.
So pre-draft,
yeah,
you go and you if you hire an agent, they kind of put you through kind of like combine training, right? And that's for the pre-draft combine in Chicago, but also you essentially go out on a workout trail. So, I was slated to be a first round pick, and my agent, who eventually I signed with, set up all the workouts that I was going to go out and do, and I worked out from the second pick to I think the 12th pick. So all those teams, I'm on the road, and I'm going and training and working out either with other players or solo. And it's a grind.
Yeah, for sure.
I did 12 workouts in like I think 17 or 18 days, and that's with travel and all that stuff. So it was a heck of a grind. And then you go to Chicago and they do all the measurements and kind of all that stuff, which is Chicago is more for the senior class and guys that didn't necessarily have first round, sort of credentials. And yeah, I mean, I went through that process, and it was then that I felt more comfortable, signing with an agent, and I ended up signing with a law firm out of DC, Williams and Connolly, and they helped me navigate kind of the draft. And I had a range between the 5th pick and the 19th pick, which is a pretty wide range.
Yeah.
But it gave me the confidence and the comfort that I'm going to be an NBA player.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And was it real at that point when you were doing the workouts and you're going through this? You got the law firm, your brothers are like kind of helping go through this. Was it like this is real?
This is real. This is real.
But like when you were a freshman, you weren't thinking NBA.
No. And even, in the beginning of my junior year, I broke my foot. And so I basically missed all of preseason.
Yeah.
So I came in during the Pac-10 season, had a great Pac-10 season, and then, postseason. But even, at the beginning of that year, I was like, I don't know what this is going to be.
Yeah.
I might be, a 4-year player at Stanford, which I was fine with. But, I didn't in my mind say, I'm going to the NBA this year.
Yeah. Well, that's like what a treat, right? At the end of the year. So how'd you feel Atlanta 6th pick? Like you were going 5 to 19.
5 to 19. I was 6.
Yeah.
I was excited, man.
Yeah.
As you can imagine.
Yeah.
You watch this on TV your entire life, and you see what it is, and now you're in it. And it was just a fantastic time. Dream come true.
Yeah. So I want to stay in the NBA thing for a little bit.
Yeah.
It seems like in the NBA, there's always like a welcome to the NBA moment.
Yeah.
There's like, I don't know if it's in practice, I don't know in games, but I've watched enough and I love the NBA. What was your like welcome to the NBA moment, if there was one?
Yeah. And I've told this story before, but so early in my rookie year, we're playing against the Houston Rockets.
Okay.
Houston Rockets at that time, Yao Ming, was, it was, I think, I want to say T-Mac was on that team as well, but Yao for sure. And so Al Harrington, who was a good friend of mine, he throws up a shot, he misses. I catch, we're scrambling, I catch the rebound. I just pick it up and go and dunk it.
Yeah.
And just so happens that Yao Ming is under there.
You dunked on Yao.
So I dunked on Yao Ming, right?
Yeah.
So I'm hyped. My teammates are hyped.
But you didn't know. You're like, okay, that was good, but I just picked up the rebound, dunked it. Oh, and there's Yao Ming.
Yeah. I mean, like Yao is. Yeah. I mean, that's a feat in itself, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And the fans were going crazy. And everything was happening, and they call timeout, and so that gives it even more of like that emphasis. Like,
oh yeah,
great
because
play.
Now everybody's talking about it. They're playing the replay.
Right.
The fans are going. They're like,
right.
we got rookie of the year right here. Yeah, right.
Right. So they call a timeout. They come out and run the next play. They run a play at a high pick and roll for him.
Yeah.
He rolls down the middle of the lane. I'm the help guy.
Yeah.
And this was by design for sure. But
Absolutely.
I'm the help guy. And so I go over and help and jump like a silly rookie.
Yeah.
He
And
dunked
he
on me.
dunked on
He dunked
you.
right on me. Yeah.
I think I actually remember that because you've talked about it
I've
before,
talked about
right?
it before, but
I think I remember it.
that's the welcome to the NBA
Yeah.
moment for sure.
And so what was how was the transition from going high school, Mayfair, Stanford, culture shock to NBA? Moving out to Atlanta.
Yeah, I mean, Atlanta in itself was a culture shock.
Yeah.
As well.
Yeah.
It's growing up in Southern California and up at Stanford.
Yeah.
There's it's just socially, there's integration, right? There's just people are just a little bit more liberal, obviously, and they hang out with each other. And Atlanta was relatively segregated.
Yeah.
And so navigating that was different for me, and learning kind of the nuances of where to go, where not to go, when to go places, when not to go places. You're seeing Confederate flags drive by, and it's like,
I had when I was like 19 or 20, I went to Texas, and I grew up, here, and I still remember like spending some time there. This is where like black, brown, white, and they did not mix, man.
Yeah.
And it was like, and then I went to a little town in Vidor, Texas, and it was all white.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is like, and it's kind of like you go back into the South and you're thinking, can't really still be like this, right? And so it was something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Where I wasn't aware.
Yeah.
And I had teammates that were from there, and so they're helping me navigate it as well. But it was just different, and it was something that I was not used to at all. So you couple that, and that's part that that's pretty easy to kind of figure out.
Yeah.
But you're young, you're coming into some cash, and your life changed.
Yeah.
Right. And so navigating family dynamics, navigating who your friends are, who your friends were, all the different people come out of the woodwork, trying to make sure that you're performing on the court.
Do you feel a lot of pressure at that time?
You do.
Yeah.
You do. And
because you're literally going from a college student that's got no money to you got a bunch of money. You got a good head on your shoulders, but still you're young, right? You're like, let's go buy the Ferraris, the houses, whatever. That's got to be on your mind, right? And then you have to perform. You're in a town that's like, that sounds like there would be a lot of pressure in a situation like that.
It was a lot of pressure, but it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Just out there, just kind of learning on the fly. I think, one of the biggest challenges, not only I face, but a lot of athletes face, you go from, being a part of the family to now being, at the very minimum, the financial head of the family, and are tasked with making all these decisions. And,
You mean like within your family?
Most athletes.
Yeah.
And
because you got all your brothers, you got your mom, your dad, like all these people that have helped you, support you the whole time, and then all of a sudden, that's got to be an interesting dynamic.
And less so on that, but more so just on I'm now 21 years old. I'm making more money than my family has ever made, ever
combined,
right? And I'm now tasked with making sound financial decisions. When finance wasn't a part of our household conversations,
right?
And that's it's just a challenge, right? And that's likely for a large majority of professional athletes. Is you have a 19, 20, 21-year-old now being tasked with being the financial head of a family. And how do you navigate that?
Yeah.
If you don't have people that have any sort of experience in finance, and you're leaning heavily on a financial advisor or, your agent, that's challenging as well, because most of those guys don't really know.
Or may not be doing things in your best interest, right?
Correct.
Everybody's like so self-interested, like, hey, Josh, do this with, kickbacks and other stuff.
Correct.
So when you were going through some of that stuff, did you go back to your process? Like be in tune, listen to your voice?
I did. But I'd say that process was tainted a little bit. Tainted from the perspective of, there's this lens of I have to protect myself from everybody. And when you're on defense, it may be hard to kind of navigate, how to best be on offense, or how to, do I take this relationship seriously? Do I not take this one seriously? Do I defend myself against this person? Is this person trustworthy? Is my agent doing the right thing by me? What's my coach telling me? Like, you have all these things going on, and so it was more challenging to take that step back.
Totally. It's funny
and
because like I grew up with not a lot, and I'm assuming you did, and grew up in Compton, but like my success came gradually and through grinding and through mainly me just like trial and error. But to have a windfall,
yeah,
right, and be able to like have to deal with that would be a real challenging thing to navigate through.
yeah. I mean, I'm 21 years old. I signed a $10+ million contract, as a 21-year-old, and this is my first time I've ever experienced taxes.
Yeah.
I mean, like, that in itself was like,
Yeah.
something that I just, never thought about and was
Right.
never exposed to. And so, you're counting what you have in your mind and not understanding that, you got somebody else to pay here. And so, that exposure is something that I'm very passionate about now.
Yeah.
I look at a lot of kids in inner city. It's not that they're less talented; they just don't have the exposure and opportunity to learn about some of these things earlier. That my kids are getting exposed to, your kids will get exposed to, and just individuals in the business ecosystem. Which is it's a definite kind of.
So it's a good segue, and I don't want to leave basketball. You said that's something I'm passionate. So what specifically are you doing with that passion?
So financial literacy and mentorship.
Okay.
I am doing everything I can to expose
Financial literacy and
mentorship.
mentorship.
Yeah.
And so, like, tell me more about
It's a combination of the
both.
two.
Yeah, for sure.
So I started my foundation in 2012.
Okay.
Really with that in mind.
Yeah.
I wanted to give back to the community, help younger kids understand that success is not what they always see on TV. I mean, there's a wide range of success in this world. And, here are some other kind of examples of success, guys that you don't see, as athletes, as entertainers, as what have you, that are in the real estate space, own their own businesses, have a tow truck company, or, whatever the business may be, exposing them to a broader range of people who are successful.
So give me like the real practical. I'm Tim Smith. I'm coming out of high school, number one, like recruited. When are you helping these kids, and what sort of program could they look at? Is this when they become professional, or is this at all levels you've set up programs to expose them to people of success in other places? Give me a little bit more.
So it's less formal than that.
Okay.
I'm gonna build a relationship with you.
Okay.
I'm gonna help you understand what it is that I've done and what I'm doing now.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get a pulse on what you're interested in.
Yeah.
And then I'm gonna bring you around those people. So you're exposed to, a guy who's loves basketball, but was in the hedge fund business, or loves basketball, but was in the real estate space. So that there's a common ground there.
Yeah.
Which is the sports piece, but it opens the door for conversation around, all the other things that person might be doing. Now you couple that with the college scholarships that we provide and kind of all that stuff. It just makes, the passion of mine is, making sure that I expose more kids to more things. And those things typically kind of like start with sports, but then expand and evolve into, other avenues.
It's amazing when you just look at the law of exposure, right?
Yeah.
For me, I didn't grow up with the law, but I've just somehow figured out a way to always be around people that were successful in doing things, and it's been a common theme, and it seems to be a common theme in all the stories that I'm telling of people that have success in whatever they do, being exposed to people that can open their minds to things they weren't thinking about, connect them, have relationships. Okay, so basketball, great success, played in the NBA for a lot of years, played overseas, different things. Let's talk about the second mountain, because I see this a lot with athletes, and I've gotten to know a lot of athletes. defining yourself after basketball or after anything, or even in a career. If I had to leave my career and say, hey, do something new, that's not easy to do.
Yeah.
It's like telling a guy that's had a liquidity event, sold a big company, to do it again, right?
Yeah.
So talk about that transition. Did you, as you were ending basketball, did you already kind of know what you wanted to do? Like, because what you've done now and the things you're doing are like inspiring. And Landspire.
Yeah.
It's good, right?
So my transition started while I was still playing.
Yeah.
So I was with the Pelicans for kind of half a season.
Yeah.
Ended up getting injured, needing surgery. So had surgery, and then during that time went back to Stanford to finish my degree. During that process, I spent some time.
Was that challenging? Not to make this.
It was a lot easier. I don't
Was
know
it
how
because you didn't have to do anything but
I
study?
was like, I essentially knocked out like almost 40 units in 2 quarters. Like, I don't know how I did it,
Yeah.
but it was just a different sort of
Was
grind.
that a good reflection time as you were going to Second Mountain, like your second career?
For sure. But that was the start of it. But it led into, and I'll kind of get into what happened after. So in that process, I was, just to kind of have fun, I was playing pickup games with the team on campus. And so, as I'm playing, I got a little bit left in the tank.
Yeah.
I think I can keep going, even though in my mind I was contemplating retirement. And so during that process, I had a conversation with my agent. And he said, hey, this team in Australia, has reached out about another player, but I said that you might be available. And, the guy was like, there's no way Josh would come out to Australia. We don't have the budget of this and this. And, this was, I'm still playing in the NBA at the time, and just gotten released. And so the more I thought about it, like, yeah, let me talk to him.
You're like, I'm not ready to hang up my shoes,
Let
right?
me just talk to him and see what he's talking
Yeah.
about. And this guy named Tim Hudson, who's, now become a really close friend. And, I just told him what I was going through and, now being released from, a team twice. And, I'm thinking this is the time for me to kind of take that next step and start, phase 2 of my career. And got to know Tim, and basically I said, look, Tim, I'll come play, but part of my contract is you have to introduce me to all the businessmen that are associated with the team, all the ownership group, all the local businessmen. I know that the Sydney Kings are, a big brand, in the city. I want to meet all the Sydney business people. Done.
But that's a big thing when you think about it.
Yeah.
Making a transition, you're like, hey, I'm gonna negotiate the last playing time, but I'm also gonna negotiate like an opportunity to be exposed to all these people so I can figure out what the next step is for me.
Yeah.
I mean, was that inner
That
voice
was
thing
inner
again?
voice. That was inner voice.
I'm seeing that. Okay. So, and I remember reading about it. You had an epic season with this team, right?
Yeah.
It was like, I think it was like you averaged 19 points a game or maybe 21 points a game.
I did my thing over there. I can't
Yeah.
remember my averages,
Yeah.
but I played really well. But more importantly, I met people I liked in the business space, and wanted to, kind of continue a relationship with, and people that I didn't. So I got, more exposure to just, people that were open books and kind of helping me navigate this. And I was coming from here where I had, a relatively, a relative name to there where, I was the largest kind of name that had ever come over.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so just my access to the business community was different. And
How old were you at the time?
I was 30,
Okay.
31, somewhere in there.
Okay.
And so, yeah, that was a catalyst for what is now, Landspire Group and all that. Was just my exposure to the business community in Sydney. One guy I met over there, former, private equity guy at Carlyle Group, he brought me to his home and just said, hey, here's everything I'm working on, like open the books. I had never really gone through a P&L and tried to understand what, the operations of a business. And I spent a ton of time with him learning his businesses, how he operates, the rigor, the intellectual capacity, just the next level of detail that he puts into, all the things that he does. And, that was the kind of the genesis of now where I am with my company.
So let's fast forward 2019. You're done in Australia. You have this epic experience from listening to your gut again.
Yeah.
So let's talk about like the Landspire and what it is.
Yeah.
And why you are the founder and now CEO, and kind of what your strike zone is now.
Yeah. So during kind of my last year and a half of playing, I had reached out to my former college teammate, Justin Davis, and we were looking at some of the same, or I was getting pitched on deals in kind of the venture space. He was working for a social impact firm up in the Bay Area, and I just hit him up to get some feedback. Hey, what do you think about this? What are you guys seeing? Or any things that I should be thinking about here? And the more we talked, the more we were, came to the conclusion, like, why aren't we doing something together? We were roommates, we were boys. You have some experience, went back to Stanford Business School. Why aren't we working together? And so as conversations continue to happen, we decided to. And so we started Landspire Group, inspire change through land, investment, land development. And, our focus was, just anything in terms of learning, in terms of partnership.
But really focused in real estate, though.
Real estate was the focus for sure.
So give us some of like the projects, and I don't need to like the names, but some of like the projects you guys have done. So you, Justin, get back together, and was it just kind of like right time, everything? Are you married at the time?
At the time, I am, yeah.
Okay, so you're married at the time. So, and is Justin married at the time? Okay,
and he's up in the Bay Area.
He's in the Bay Area.
And so we're just like trying to figure this out. We don't have any sort of formal business experience in launching a company and all that stuff. But what we did have were kind of the intangibles that you come with being an athlete. Right?
Yeah,
the discipline, the hard work. I'm gonna like focus my efforts on.
Take the principles I learned here, academically, athletically. Why can't I do it here?
Why can't I do it here?
Yep.
And so I was on LinkedIn and I saw an RFP for a site in Santa Ana.
So just so people know, what's an RFP?
Request for proposal.
Okay.
So for cities, if they have a project or a big, development opportunity, they send this out publicly, and then people can bid on the project.
Yeah.
And it was for the redevelopment of the Willowwood Golf Course in Santa Ana. So it's, in one of the wealthiest counties in the country, but, probably the poorest area in the wealthiest county in the country, right? So I went to a couple of the city hall meetings and got an understanding.
This is first project? This is the first project?
That we looked at,
not
that we did.
Okay, yeah.
And what I found at the city hall meetings was everybody had all the things that they thought that the sites should have on them. But here's where ignorance is bliss, right? I didn't know what I didn't know. I envisioned this site being a hub for youth sports.
Yeah.
And there was a light rail that's going to be connected to Disneyland. It was connected site to Disneyland down the line. And so I just thought back to, my youth and, just, AAU, tournaments and all that stuff. And like, here's a site at scale that you can connect to Disneyland, that you can build, the sports and event center, the soccer fields, all those things. You could probably build a hotel, and then you could build housing around it to kind of support, the development.
Sure.
And so Justin and I are just like, drawing on the back of a napkin what we think the layout should be, and then we, hire a freelancer to kind of come up with some rough site plan. I then reach out to a guy that I met while I was still playing, named Frank Surian. So I'm sure most of the Orange County people here know who Frank is.
Of course.
And I said, hey, Frank, man, just would love to get your feedback on this. I'm just trying to figure this out. And he said, Josh, I think you're onto something here.
Yeah.
And so, like 3 weeks later, we signed a partnership with Frank and Lion Living on trying to take this down together.
Yeah.
And so we're going through the process and meeting with the city council and all that stuff. And then we present to the city. And so, Frank and team obviously are very well respected, but also very successful in their own right. And so they
got the track record,
they got it all to where it was presentable.
Yeah.
But it was one thing that I think stood out to them in the city hall meeting was that there was a lot of the social side to this project that they couldn't speak to. that we could.
Yeah.
You know,
What does that mean? You mean the social, the community around the sports events?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
all of that stuff, and then
Yeah.
just where it was going to be,
Yeah.
and how this could be beneficial to community based on, you know, like my and Justin's kind of
Yeah.
lived experience as
Totally.
kids in inner
Yeah.
cities, and you know the impact that sports had on our lives and
Yeah.
all those things, and how to activate and include the community in a lot of those efforts, and so I think, well, I know that was a catalyst for us saying, hey, we liked working with you guys and vice versa. You know, there's more for us to do here. And although we didn't win that project, that was a catalyst for what was our flagship project, which is a 300 unit development in Las Vegas with Lion Living.
Yeah.
So, you know, just leveraging the network, but also it was a lot of diligence, a lot of hard work, a lot of, you know, just us just working, grinding. I remember having one of the city hall meetings, you know, with the mayor of Garden Grove. I was playing overseas, so I'm like up at 3 a.m. on
Yeah.
this Zoom call, listening in, you know, making sure that everything was going the right way, and we were presenting, you know, the material. So, yeah, it's just, you know, a lot of work, a lot of, you know, understanding that this is a part of now what I want, you know, the next phase of my life to be, and I'm doing it with people that I like to work with.
Yeah. So now fast forward 2023, quite a few successful projects under your belt and in process. We're in a situation economically that's unique. How is the market impacting what you're doing right now? And what are the opportunities and what are the challenges that you're facing?
So, for context, I mean, we primarily invest in multifamily assets, and we'll be launching a platform here soon that will also focus on sports anchored and sports adjacent real estate investments. That includes, you know, multifamily, it includes hospitality, it includes experiential retail, you know, and some maybe team anchored office. And what we're seeing in the market, you know, I think one of the biggest things COVID taught us, and, you know, just the pandemic taught us, was like people still love their sports and they love to have a sense of community. They love to.
Oh, wait, let's just stop. The bubble. I mean, it was the most epic thing.
Yeah.
Like when you're stuck at home and watching guys play in the bubble, I still remember like that was my favorite. Anyway, keep on going.
And,
Yeah.
and so with that, I mean, sports is, you know, the outlier. Sports is the one thing that people will always gravitate towards. You look statistically, 95 out of the top 100, you know, programs on TV were sports programs, you know, last year. And like, that's not going anywhere. And so what we're seeing is, you know, kind of a push towards the platform build at the sports team level, where, you know, team owners are now more than team owners. They're real
Totally.
estate owners, they're technology company owners, they're, you know, all the things. And so, you know, we think there's a real unique opportunity to participate in, you know, some of the new sports.
Which you guys, I think, just invested with Morad and Jom in this X Games,
In the
right?
X Games.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so we'll do those as kind of a one-off, but we really value, you know, and want to make more of a business of the sports anchored real estate.
Yeah.
You know, we think that that's just a really unique and interesting place. You know, benefits from the foot traffic of, you know, 200 plus nights a year of
Totally.
events.
Yeah.
And you know,
Very
it's where
smart.
our
Very
networks
smart.
lie, yeah.
And this is more advice, not just to athletes that are trying to transition their next career, but anybody that's trying to redefine themselves. What advice would you give to those people that are coming out of a successful career that is clearly the past, trying to transition into the next one and be their second mountain?
I think the biggest thing is do the work on finding your identity. As athletes, our identity all our lives was being an athlete. It was, you know, that's how people knew you, how they defined you. And so as you transition out of that, really dig into who you are and what makes you you outside of what you did on the court or on the field. And that's the biggest challenge I see a lot of athletes, you know, face. I faced it, but it's who are you? What makes you you outside of that jersey you put on, or, you know, you swinging that bat or shooting that ball?
And give them a warning, because I think this goes far beyond just athletics to something else. And I've seen it with like maybe it's just me, can't get over an old story that's helping me develop the new me to be successful. So what warnings along with when you're re-identifying yourself would you give the people?
Well, I'd say the biggest piece of advice I would give is to be comfortable with being uncomfortable and be okay with being vulnerable. It's a really interesting place in life that you have to kind of get to, where you're able to be open to, parking who you were and who you were defined as, and the success and or failures that you may have had, in that previous life. Because if you're not, on a growth path and kind of have a growth mentality, then you will always cling to, what you thought made you, which, hinders you from, stepping into who you are, for the future.
It's almost like the caterpillar. Like you cannot identify, you got to let it go. The more you identify or keep that story, that prevents you from the butterfly.
Absolutely.
So one last question, why Orange County? You could live anywhere in the world. You've been all over the world and we are here. I think it's the greatest place on the planet. You're raising a family. Why Orange County for you?
Orange County for me, it's where I hung out when I was in high school. It's where one of my best friends moved when he first turned pro.
So you were actually taking time away from Compton to come to Orange County?
Well, I mean, when I was at Mayfair, my two of my best friends were at Mater Dei. I was hanging out here a little bit more, and then when my buddy Jamal turned pro, he bought a house in Huntington, and so I was out here more. I spent my rookie year in Marina Del Rey, which is where I thought that's where all the athletes were. But I found myself in Orange County more, and when I was down there, I loved it. It was clean, safe, good restaurants, nice people, and I haven't left since. So I've been here pretty much since I started as my second year in the league.
And now with 3 little girls, are you even more committed to Orange County?
I am more committed to Orange County. I was very fortunate to get some assistance in, purchasing a home here, and I live out in Anaheim Hills, and very thankful for that. I have a beautiful 1-acre lot that I've invested, time and resources into, and I don't ever see myself moving.
So let's switch. Couple of quick questions as we're ending. Father of 3 daughters, right? So I have a son and I have a daughter. And there are clearly different love muscles for the 2 of them, right? And I can't help it, but this one is harder, and this one's so. Talk a little about your experience as a father, navigating that, and your relationships with your daughters.
Yeah, so we spoke a lot earlier about my household, and it was 4 boys, and so now I'm in the house, and I am the only male, and I have a dog, but I'm the only male in the house, and it is a challenge, in a good way. I mean, I love it. It's something that, I think about daily, and just, understand how blessed I am. But also, the level of emotion in the house has risen significantly from my childhood. And I, as a father of girls, just want to always make sure they understand, that they are smart, they are strong, they are magnificent, individuals, and that, I have the responsibility of setting the standard for, what they view a man should be, and I take that, to heart, and I always want to make sure they understand, that standard should be set high, and so that's my task and my duty as a father of girls, and I always want to support them and just make sure that they understand that.
And it's interesting because if you look at marriage as like, hey, the offspring, I mean, you married a professional volleyball player, you got 3 daughters. I mean, you got to start thinking about their their future in athletics, right?
So Stanford already offered them scholarships. He said, "Let me know when they're ready."
Yeah.
I mean, my wife is tall; she's about 6 foot, so
Yeah.
I think that my girls will be, be pretty strong athletes.
So future in women's basketball. A couple other things. What keeps you up at night?
What keeps me up at night? Not realizing my potential. I think that I am blessed with an immense amount of gifts and talents, and I just want to make sure that I take advantage of all those. Am I doing all that I can possibly do to unlock my potential, which then in turn will unlock the potential of others around me. And so that's the one thing that I'd say keeps me up at night.
If you had a motto or a billboard, something that kind of you always live by, is there any quote or thought that you live by?
That's a tough one. I'll think too. There's a rap quote.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Um,
Started in Compton, will end in Compton.
There's a Little Wayne quote.
Yeah.
The only thing on the mind of a shark is eat. So I just like in my mind, I'm like, I always have to be in shark mode. I always have to eat. I always have to, kind of, just stay focused on, what the task at hand is for me. And I remind myself of that one all the time.
Well, we could probably open up a full second hour on that, because in the businesses that we chose, you eat what you kill.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, you can work on 100 other things all day, but if you're not eating, you're not focused on the right priorities. And so it's hard. So it's like, especially 2 kids, you have 3 kids, started this business, great success, but we're definitely in a transitioning market.
Yeah.
Right. And when it transitions, this is when people either step up or they become irrelevant. Right. So it's like having that hyper focus. So I love that ending. I appreciate having you on, man. It's been such a pleasure.
Same.
I'm a big fan, and I love who you are as a businessman, as a person, as a family man, and I hope we can do this again sometime.
Absolutely. Appreciate it, man.
Thanks for listening to our podcast room. If you've enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support us, please share your favorite episodes with others or leave a rating and review. To catch all the latest from your host, Tim Smith, you can follow me on Instagram at Tim Smith Real Estate. That's all from me. See you next time.
Thanks for listening to Room, presented by the Smith Group. This episode was hosted by Tim Smith and produced by Michelle Akers. Chris Stacy is our studio director. Editing by Jake Austin. Special thanks to Pacific Staging and Sandy Newport.